Hi, I'm Ben from 498 Nerf, and this is the ETR-26, or as I called it in the build journals that I did, the Extra Tactical Roughcut. Now the concept behind this blaster was I wanted to build a tactical roughcut, but I wanted it to have the ability to have more firepower behind it than just a roughcut. The roughcut is a great blaster for skirmishes, for run and gun, when you're loading on the fly, you're picking up darts and scavenging. It's great, but if you get into a straight up firefight, you get outclassed pretty quickly. So I wanted to put a blaster together that gave you all the advantages that the roughcut gives you, but also to back it up with some firepower once you got into a real fight. So started out with, all right, I wanted roughcut, I want a tactical roughcut, and then put the firepower. So the blaster came together as roughcut with a tactical handle, which ended up being a Retaliator handle, and then with a cut down Rapidstrike on the top of it. Now, once I started putting the pieces together, I realized that there was a different way to look at this blaster, and my idea was a roughcut with some extra firepower, a tactical roughcut with some firepower, but it turned out that it was a bullpup configuration on the Rapidstrike. So you can look at this blaster as a bullpup Rapidstrike with a roughcut master key, or you can look at it as a tactical roughcut with a stock that is also into a Rapidstrike. Didn't intend for that, but it ended up the way the handle mounted, the way the whole thing came together, it really did turn out to be a lot like a bullpup Rapidstrike. So anyways, the roughcut portion of this blaster, pretty straightforward. If you look at the shell, if you saw any of the build journals, you know that I saved all of the mechanical the internal mechanisms up here through the trigger and the shell for that, and that's all the same. So mechanically on the inside, with a couple minor changes, it's pretty much just like a regular roughcut is. The changes on that are, one, I put a couple Orange Modworks 7 kilogram Strongarm springs in here. It's a controversial move. I may pay for it. I may blow up the gearbox eventually in this thing, but it gives it about 20 FPS additional, and that makes a lot of difference when you're going to a Nerf war with the roughcut. It's getting into the low 90 FPSs, where a stock one will get you in the low 70s. That makes actually quite a bit of difference from being able for your opponents to dodge darts and such. So I went ahead and did that, and I took that risk because I felt that the blaster needed, the roughcut portion of this needed that extra punch. I also modified the trigger. Some of these newer roughcuts, the two-stage ability to fire one side then the other has kind of been lost. So I made some tweaks onto the trigger. I think Reddit user Zombona had post up on how you cut it down just a little bit, and I cut it down too far, but I ended up putting a little bit of material back onto the top of it, and it actually worked real well. So when you cock it, bring it back, now you've got the ability to fire 1, 2, and get both barrels to separate out like that. So that's the roughcut portion. Then I took the Rapidstrike portion. Really, the attempt was to turn the Rapidstrike portion here. We'll turn it around, you can see it both ways, to turn this into the stock, the tactical stock for the roughcut. So cut off the back portion of this, took the stock, took that down, attached it in here where the handle would be to turn it into the stock, and then integrated the whole thing together on top of the roughcut shell. So internally on this, it's somewhat similar to some of the Hailstorm mods that I've done, but it's got some differences in there. First of all, I've got in here the Artifact Red cage with the serrated flywheels for my Stage 1. Stage 2 is the Rapidstrike cage with, I believe, the Doomlands flywheel blaster. I stole the flywheels off of it to put in there for the Stage 2, but the Stage 1 is that Artifact Red cage. I'm still having trouble with that, and one of the reasons I won't have chronograph readings up with this video is because I wasn't able to get good chronograph readings. It's shooting pretty well for FVJs. I'm having a lot of trouble with Koosh and with just regular elite darts with the whole thing. I've got some tweaking to do, and eventually I may pull the red cage out and put a standard cage back in and brass it like I've done with the Hailstorm mods. The motor configuration is the same as the Hailstorm. It's got the Kysan 17114s for stage 1. It's got MTB Rhinos for stage 2. It's got the Kysan 17114 for the pusher to give it 7-8 darts per second when it fires off on full auto. And I'm running the whole thing off of a Turnigy Nano 4S 45C 1000 milliamp hour LiPo, and this is actually a pretty big, significant deviation from what the Hailstorm Mark IV was. It was still running off of IMRs. So in order to get that, and if you watch the build journals, I had to go through and come down and widen this area out down here, so that the LiPo, it's actually quite thick. It's about 25. It's almost a full inch thick, so that it sits farther into the shell and it gets into the mag well. And that actually worked out pretty well, and I'm planning on using that for future Hailstorm mods. And just that shell gives you that strife cage, the battery tray, but fat enough that allows the LiPo to sit way down in there. One other addition, and because I've got a LiPo, I've also got a voltmeter on here. This is one I picked up off Hobby King. It shows you the voltage of each of the cells. It cycles through as far as the total overall voltage. I like that. It plugs right into the JXT connectors that are attached to the LiPo. I had to have an extender because obviously this is here on this side of the shell, and I've got the LiPo over here, so I had to wrap the wiring in and around and here. But that plugs in, and then you just plug your LiPo in. You plug in your main connector to the normal leads, and then plug in your JXTs into a separate plug that we've got into the battery tray. So anyways, with this, let's take it around and shoot it off. Again, no chronograph readings because I was having trouble getting good readings. The FEJs seem to be shooting well. I was having trouble with elites. I was having trouble with Kushes over this. So I didn't include chronograph readings. I was getting readings for the Rapidstrike portion around the 140s for the ones that it was picking up, getting in the low 90s for the Roughcut portion of that. But again, I've got some tweaking to do on the Artifact Red cage and its alignment. I think it's the flywheel alignment to get that to work right. But otherwise, the integration came together very well. It is a rough cut. It is a very tactical rough cut. Shoots and does very well, shoulders well, and then you've got the firepower of the Rapidstrike, 4 flywheel Rapidstrike on top of it. So anyways, this is the ETR-26, and I'm Ben, 498 Nerf. Thanks for watching.